So we were discussing the four options that would appear on an infringement notice, which is not, specifically speaking, an actual fine, but certainly has the semblance of a fine.
Yeah. Well, the average, let's talk about the New South Wales infringement notice. It's very similar to the ones that you get in other states like Victoria and Queensland. Essentially has four elements and it offers four choices, of which none of them should ever be taken, and I'll explain why. It's the penalty notice is essentially a demand for money with menaces. It threatens all sorts of things if you don't do what they want you to do, and it says that you will incur penalties, you will incur this, and you will incur that if you don't jump through the state government's hoops. So the first option is pay the fine. Well, why would you? Why would you pay a fine if you've not been convicted of an offence? So that's a voluntary thing. If you think you've done the wrong thing and you feel sorry and you want to do a mea culpa, fine, pay the fine, send in the money and end the problem. But if you think that you've been unjustly treated or you don't deserve to pay the fine, you haven't been convicted of any offence, therefore that option is not a viable option and don't take it. The second option that is given on the so-called penalty notice is request a review, and in the case of camera offences you have to be off your tree to do that, because simply all that the SDRO have at this stage of the game in a camera penalty is they have a photo of the back of a car with a number plate. They have no idea who's driving it. So, in other words, that's the only evidence a Crown prosecutor will have if he wants to take you to court. So, if you request a review, you immediately identify yourself as the driver. You've confessed to having been the driver of the car that was pinged. You ask for the review. If they knock you back, which they do in about 95% of cases, your identity defence is just gone out the window, because they have a letter from you stating that you are the driver of the car. So never ever ask for a review, no matter what, because you just blew one of your best defences out of the water by doing it. The third option is nominate another driver. Well, why would you rat out somebody? I mean, you wouldn't rat out your best friend for anything if you're a sort of loyal type of guy. So, and on top of that, you've got a number of legal rights. The first legal right you have, and which is enshrined in our legal system, is we have the right to silence. You are the accused person. They're accusing you of a crime, and don't ever forget the fact that a speeding ticket is a criminal offence, or accusation of speeding. It's a criminal offence. So all due process of law should be followed. So they're accusing you of a criminal offence, and they're asking you to violate your right of silence. Don't do it. And the other legal thing you have in your armoury is the right to refuse to provide anything that may tend to incriminate you. And you can look that up all over the internet.
You're speaking about the concept of a legal maxim?
It is. These are not legal maxims. They're enshrined in our legal system. You have the right to silence. You've got the right to refuse to provide anything that may tend to incriminate you. So in other words, you don't have to say a word about anybody you don't have to rat anybody out. You don't have to admit to being the driver. You don't have to admit to anything. In fact, being a criminal offence, you don't have to make any admissions at all. You don't have to give these people the time of day. Okay, so that's option 3. Option 4 is elect to go to court. Elect to take the matter to court. Why would you? Would you go up to if you were condemned to death, would you hand the axe to the executioner and ask him to put your head on the block? No, you wouldn't. If somebody wants to take you to court, if the Crown wants to take you to court on a criminal matter such as a traffic offence, the onus is up to them to do it. You don't have to volunteer, and you should never volunteer to be taken to court. If they want to do it, the ball's in their court, speaking of pun, and if they want to take you to court, let them do the taking. You don't have to volunteer to be executed by them.
So what strategy or method or technique would you recommend for someone that receives one of these infringement notices in the mail? And before we go on to that, what sort of matters would result in an infringement notice being issued? Are we talking about speeding fines only, or does that include parking fines?
Oh, parking fines work exactly the same way, where a parking ranger might take a photo of your car, but has no idea whatsoever of who parked the car. Now, we're talking about criminal offences all the way down the line. There's only two jurisdictions in this country in legal matters. There's criminal and civil. All traffic offences fall into the criminal jurisdiction. Therefore, the Crown has the entire burden of proof. The accused person in any criminal offence does not have to say one single word or admit one single thing. Okay? You have the right to silence. You never admit a thing. In fact, it's even smarter if you're pulled over by a cop to never even talk to him. Show him your licence and then shut up. Because anything you say is recorded these days, and anything that the cop can wheedle out of you by his entrapment questions will be used against you. So the advice I give to people, do not ever cooperate with police, because all they're there for these days is to entrap you into making admissions. You never do that. Shut the hell up. Never talk to a cop.
The other thing I've noticed in recent times in terms of government and police policy is perhaps something that is not formally recognised, but what are known as informal quotas, such as police being informed or instructed, you've got to issue this many parking fines per month, this many speeding fines, conduct this many arrests,
oh yes,
this many traffic stops, this many random stops.
It's exactly true. It is an informal system because they don't want to be caught out doing their little bit of revenue raising. So the copper who comes back to his station and shows his sergeant an empty infringement book is going to get a bollocking from the sergeant. And in fact, in South Australia, there was a very revealing email from a South Australian sergeant in charge of a station who got stuck into his highway patrol people for not issuing enough tickets. And he said, I think it's up on the car website, I think that I actually wrote it up, where it was very, very apparent from the email that there was a quota system in place. And believe me, in New South Wales there is, because the guy who comes back to the station every day with a book full of infringements and contacts, he's the one that's going to get the promotion. The guy that goes out there and cautions drivers without raising money, he's going to get nowhere. He's going to plod the beat for the rest of his life if he keeps that up.